Hello and welcome everyone. We're just getting the stream set up here.
Hello.
Hello.
And we should be good to go.
Is Krista joining us today?
I didn't get a message that she is not. but-
She's out of the country. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 15th Midsummer SPAC meeting. We have some guests today and we have most of our commissioners. So I think I'm calling the meeting to order, number one. And number two, just kind of introductions going around and everyone sort of just say who you are and what your position is and maybe we'll start. Well, I'll start with me. I'm Susan Apek, I'm the chair of the commission. Maybe going around this way and then to the Zoom folks.
My name is Tony O. I'm with the City of Salem as an engineer associate.
Chris Darcy, Commissioner.
Daniel Childs, project architect with Hacker Architects. Working here with Aaron on the Salem Cities.
Aaron Kimsey, City of Salem, Assistant City Engineer.
Carol Schneider, State of Parks Foundation.
Linda Beerley, Salem Parks Foundation Treasurer, and Carol is our president.
Kathleen Swarm, staff liaison.
And
I'm Carl Roth, Commissioner.
Spencer Emmerich, Commissioner. Brian Hurd, Commissioner.
And me, who you can't see, because I'm having camera difficulties, I apologize. I'm Luca Mazel. I'm a engineering program manager.
okay, thanks, everybody. Public comment is the next thing on our agenda. Do we have any public comment?
I have a comment, but it is for an item that is on the agenda.
Okay, so we'll do it then. Approval of the consent agenda. So we need approval for the agenda for today and also for the minutes of our last meeting of July 9th. And I'd like to make a motion that we approve the agenda and minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the approval, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Okay, great. New business. Might as well move right on. Luke, I think this is for you. Mirror Maze mural deaccession for building renovation.
Okay, yes, thank you. And again, sorry that my camera is not working. I tried to get that fixed on a previous meeting and it's still giving me trouble, so bear with me. It's probably better for you that you can't see my face. So I'm going to share my screen with you. What we're talking about here is a project that we have slated for, and let me see, share. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. So as some of you may know, Rudy's Steakhouse is no longer occupying this city-owned space at the Chemeketa Parkade. And we have facilities, been working with facilities to look at making some repairs to this building, which includes renovations to this atrium space, which has been a constant issue for facilities to maintain. It leaks. It's a expense and a hassle for facilities to deal with. The same window system is present on top of the wall that I'm about to show you in this picture here. So hopefully you're still seeing my screen. Please tell me if I'm wrong.
I see your window, we don't see the open document.
Okay, bring it over there.
Okay.
Okay, so you see this, the window system also exists over this wall where the mural in question is located. This wall is made of a material that's called ephes, which is a exterior insulation and finish system that has multiple layers to it. An insulation board, reinforcing mesh, and a finish coat, textured finish coat, which kind of gives it the appearance of stucco. It's really a bad choice for an exterior finish in the Pacific Northwest. I think when they were using this material back when this was constructed, the jury was still out on it. But every EFIS system that I've seen on an existing building has problems with water intrusion and even to the framing underneath gets compromised. So in talking with the architect about replacing this window system with a vertical wall, he said that we would have to, that his insurance would not allow him to rebuild on top of this wall if we left the EFIS finish in place. So then that's when the talk about accessioning this mural came up, and I'll show you this this here, which talks about the when the mural was installed, which was in 2017. Based on my conversations with Kathleen, according to the Salem Public Art Commission, Public Art Collection Guidelines, Policies, and Procedures, of work of art will be deaccessioned only if one of these following conditions exists. And the one I'm looking at here is the architectural support, the building wall for the work where the work is displayed is to be destroyed unless the work can be relocated, and it really would be impossible to maintain the integrity of the art if we were to try and remove the EFIS and relocate it. So what we're looking at doing with the project is removing this EFIS material, assessing the studs underneath, and hopefully we don't have to get too far into that, and replacing the entire wall and the glass system with a vertical wall, maybe with some windows at the top. But the idea is that whatever siding we choose will be suitable for future art installations, a mural, but it will be better suited for the environment of the Pacific Northwest. And the only other thing that I would add to this is that, this project itself will need to contribute to the Public Art Fund, the 0.5% for the construction costs. And based off of we don't have an exact estimate yet now, but based off of the really rough figures, we're looking at least, $5,000 to $6,000 to the Public Art Fund. So, that could go towards replacing the mural and commissioning some other artwork there. But that's the long and short of it. Does anybody have any questions on this?
What will that space be used for moving forward?
Well, that's up to, Urban Renewal, who manages the space. But it will likely be, a business that occupies it. I would be surprised if it's not a restaurant, but it just depends on who moves in there.
Okay.
Can you, the EFIS material, it doesn't look like it's degraded since 2017. And you were saying that it's not suitable for this environment. Could you talk a little more about that? I mean, why you can't leave that? I know you said it already, but can you just?
Yeah, so so looking at the pictures, I can understand why it doesn't look like it's, like it looks like it's in pretty good shape, right? But what this is like a foam insulation over some layers of material. And what I've seen is like where you see this black staining up here, you can get water intrusion behind the ephes. Down below, I'd be surprised if we don't have water intrusion back to the framing. Every building that I've worked on that has this has water intrusion behind the ephes. And the primary driver is that the architect will not touch this wall. Their insurance will not allow them to redesign this wall if we don't allow them to remove the ephes material. They're just not, they would be liable. So exposes them to liability to design a retrofit to this with a system that they know is subpar for the environment.
That's really unfortunate. Because it's a really nice piece, and to destroy a work of art, it's just always painful.
Well, I mean, I will say that, we might come back with an estimate that doesn't allow us to afford to touch this. The primary scope of work is to redo the atrium and replace the flat roof above the structure. When we were looking at with the architect, he said, you have these same roof system over this wall. You should look at replacing that. And like I said, we may come back and the estimates might be so that we can't afford to do this piece, and that would be a future phase. I'm just getting this before you because the reality is we'll eventually want to replace this window system above that mural.
So your primary concern is just water getting behind the ephes there and maybe getting into the studs and insulation?
My primary concern is that the architect will not design a replacement of this window system if we tell him we have to maintain the ephes. We will have to, I mean, maybe there's another designer whose insurance would let them do that.
I mean, it might be worth looking into it. I understand the concern, but it feels like there should be a way where we can, retain the artwork and, maybe do maybe it's cutting off part of the top area and getting down in there and seeing even if there is water. It looks like, maybe it's some new flashing or some new structure added on top of it, but I think it'd be worth exploring.
I understand that. What I'm trying to emphasize is the architect will not do any design work on it if we tell him that we need to maintain the ephes. So we would have to come up with a separate project to maybe explore that. If we decide we need to, our intent is to maintain this mural. If that's the desire from the group and we can't get permission to deaccession this, then I'll tell the architect right now to stop designing around this wall. And I'll just have to revisit with urban renewal to figure out next steps for that piece of the project. And that's fine. That's the reason I came to talk to the group today, is to get direct.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm just trying to, I understand it's a tricky area to deal with, and ephes isn't great in this climate, but we do a lot of ephes around here, and it can hold up. If it's worth getting like having someone else look at it and getting a sort of a second opinion on, is there a way to maintain this artwork? It would be kind of a shame to lose that artwork. We haven't had it there for very long, and I understand your dilemma, but just trying to figure out if there's any alternatives that we can explore.
Chris?
I think just one of the sad things about this whole situation is that the city, urban development, invested in these two murals. We did a major public call for proposals. This piece was actually completed by someone who works all over the world. Damian Gilley, he lives in Portland. He just unveiled on Saturday a major new mural at the Maryhill Museum in the Columbia Gorge. this mural, the city paid $25,000 for this mural. And so when I hear that this project might generate $5,000 to $6,000 in 0.5%, it's like, okay, great. We're gonna destroy a $25,000 work of art, you might get a fraction of that in 0.5%. So this mural and the mural that is at the end of this alley on the parkade, these were designed to be demonstration projects that the city invested in order to showcase what murals could do for downtown. And if you follow Salem Main Street, they renamed some of these alleys. They invested a fair amount of their human capital to help lure businesses downtown. Lively Station is to the right or the left of that screen. I had a drink there the other day. The doors were open, people were dining outside. The mural is actually, I was surprised how clean it was. Just walking around the space. You know, for as much as the city says that it wants to invigorate downtown, bring business back, help small businesses thrive, create inviting spaces for visitors who are increasingly coming for things like Ironman, you know, other big events. It's just sad that 7 years after this was installed, it's gonna, there's talk of losing it. So.
Well, again, I'll go back to, you know, we're in the very preliminary stages of the design on this. The reason I wanted to talk to this group is because the architect has expressed that he's unwilling to do a design to retrofit this wall without removal of the ephes exterior. I'm in no way advocating removal of the art if that's not in the interest of this group to do. I will send an email to the architect immediately after this to tell him to just proceed with the atrium preliminary design, the flat roof replacement, and I will talk to the urban renewal director to let her know that this is something that we're going to have to live with or look at as through the lens of maintaining the art. So with that, it doesn't deter the main scope of this project, which is to address the atrium issue. And we could keep the project moving forward and maintain the art.
It sounds like at least 3 of us feel that way. The other commissioners want to weigh in on how they feel so we can have a forum to go in that direction, if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, I always want to keep art for sure. So if there's a different path, I would love to pursue that.
Agreed.
Okay, Luke, I think that's the general tenor of what we want.
Hey, Luke, this is Aaron. Do you know if the architect has considered keeping the wall in place and building a new wall beside it to allow for essentially getting away from the insurance issue, and then it would make that space in the interior maybe a little bit smaller, but it would be a new wall?
Yeah, I don't know that that's something that they could do, but I could certainly, in my email to them, I could say, hey, is that a possibility? Honestly, Aaron, you know, I haven't talked to Kristen about any of this. You know, when we met out in the field with the architect and facilities, Kristen wasn't there, but they all pointed out that this window system is the exact same thing as the atrium, and if we don't address it now, we're just kicking the can down the road, and we're going to have issues with that glass eventually.
Right, and I know the desire is while the building is vacant to do as much of this maintenance as we can, because once we get someone in there, it's gonna be a lot more difficult to, you know, close down and, you know, potentially impact small business. So I think that was their hope.
So I can certainly present that as like an idea to the architect, and see if that's something he's willing to work with or able to work with. And then that would allow us to accomplish both goals.
What is behind, do you know what is on the inside of that wall?
It's seating.
The restaurant? Restaurant
I
seating,
think so.
okay.
I haven't been in a long
It's
time.
kind of like I think it's the waiting area.
Oh,
Okay, well, thanks, Luke. I think you heard us and we appreciate that you're gonna follow up on seeing an alternative to taking the art away.
Oh, certainly. I'm happy to meet with you and present this. I'm just glad to have direction so I can talk with the architect and
Great, maybe you can update Kathleen as things go on and she can let us know.
certainly.
Okay.
could I just add one more comment?
Yes,
Because as I left this alley and walked towards the Blaine Fontana mural, the graffiti is still there.
yeah,
And so we should put that on our watch list.
it's on there.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Luke.
thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.
Thanks all. I'm gonna jam so I can go get going on this. Is that all right?
Yeah,
That's great.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a good one.
You too.
Alright.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Civic Center renovation. Got Aaron and Tony and.
Not Tony, but Daniel.
Daniel,
Yeah.
sorry.
No worries. I'm actually gonna hand the mic to Daniel as he's kind of the lead designer with Hacker Architects, but I just wanted to remind everybody, if you didn't know, if you're living under a rock, that as part of the bond that was passed by voters, there was roughly $40 million allocated to make seismic improvements and other system improvements at the Salem Civic Center. And so a little over a year ago, we hired design build team, hired us right as the contractor, and they teamed up with Hacker Architects, CV2 Architects, and KPFF. And so similar to the library project, this building is getting a significant seismic upgrade to accommodate think over how much.
Oh, it's just the names on here, it's got the description here.
Oh, okay, so I'm probably stealing some of Daniel's thunder. Anyway, we have officially moved everybody out of the building and construction started actually this week. So we're making progress. This is an 18 to 20 month timeframe for construction before we're able to move back in. And similar to large projects like this, the library, police, this building, as you all know, 0.5% of the construction cost goes towards the art fund. And so brought Daniel along to present some ideas, locations, so we can start that kind of public procurement process if that's what this group wants to do. So please.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. That's good. Kind of overview. I worked on this library as well, so it was really cool to get that Amanda Wojcik project in there, and it's really brings that space to life, I think, in a great way. But so this building is, as you all know, right across the Peace Plaza. These are some old images of that space. It's currently on the historic registry, so we're working as best we can with the constraints of the project to maintain some of the historic value of the building. The scope of the project, just to like step sort of back one step would be, if you go to the next slide here. Primarily it's a seismic retrofit, so we're making sure it's safe for employees and public, so when they go in the future that there is an earthquake, they'll be able to get out. They're also replacing the skylight, which is an old, like if you all have been in there, it's very like degraded and it's actually not safe because it could potentially fall in an earthquake as well. A lot of mechanical equipment and lighting upgrades are going to happen throughout the building. Specifically on the interiors, a lot of the exterior stuff, most and all of the exterior lighting is going to be maintained. And then we're going to do a council chambers remodel as well as an interior refresh for the staff and some of the public touch points. What I wanted to do here quickly before we talk about the art is just give you sort of an overview of what the project looks like right now after a year and change of design process and budgeting and kind of give you guys a visual. I'm sure you all are visual people, give you some visual touch points to understand kind of what we're putting the art into. So I'm going to just go through the exterior if you don't mind going to the next schedule. Actually, so we for the shear, so one of the big pieces is the seismic upgrade, and what we did at the library, we wanted to tie into on this building, and so as you can see, and you've seen, is these shear walls are exterior installed, and like they have this delicate kind of filigree planting that we're gonna do on the building as well. If you go to the next slide, this is sort of the approach from the north where the CSC is now, the customer service center, so there'll be a new shear wall there. If you go one more on the Peace Plaza side, it's a similar language with the two big shear walls on either end, but still having the opening through the middle where people approach the building. So these are in those planters. And then for the skylight, the way we really want, this was a really challenging design, but while we could not, because of budgetary constraints, we couldn't get the exact replica. Well, also I'd say two things, because of budget and structural constraints. Getting those open panels as wide as they are without having some infilled sections was really challenging from a structural standpoint, so we ended up with a similar version. It's actually a single slope roof, but it allows for the similar sort of spread of light through that atrium space rather than kind of a bunch of little punched openings. So we think it's a really, comparatively to the historic building, it's achieving the same things that it does now. And it will provide better light because all of that will be new glass and it'll be safer. So the next one, and then here's another shot of that atrium. So the next slide is just where we sort of gathered our inspiration from for the interior approach. So our main goals being retaining the historic character, connecting to nature, and then relating to some of the other civic spaces that have been recently done, both here at the library as well as here in this building here actually. So this is another building that Hacker worked with the city on. But these are, I'm just gonna run through some interior images of what the space is going to look like in the future. So, you know, talking just small, like very simple palette of blue, rich blues in the core, and then white and gray carpet. In the city manager's office, just replacing the carpet with like a nice, really rich tone that ties to some of the historic character of the building. Keeping all of the existing art, existing wood wall paneling and like the Setzel panel there, excuse me, the door.
It's not a Setzel.
No, that's not the Setzel, what was that called? That's
well, that's a longer conversation,
Yeah.
but the Setzel's in the library.
The Setzel's in the library. There's two there, right? I can't remember who carved the doors, but those obviously we're not touching, we're keeping those in place. If you go to the next slide.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, there's a double, sorry. And then up in the break room, kind of making sure we have some warm materials where the staff are able to gather. Similar, very simple palette, concrete floor, tile on the backsplash. You go to the next, and we actually are kind of trying to reuse some of the stuff that we find in the building. If you note on the right, there's these old marker boards on the wall there. That had been in the community services department. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, there's a couple of
them. Yeah, we're trying to like reuse some of those pieces we found. And obviously, it was something that we found and we were just investigating a site. It was in a conference room, it's like a marker board that opens up.
It's made out of wood and it opens up into a marker board behind it.
Mark, what's?
Just like a
Like a
dry erase board or, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but when we looked at it, they have a really cool kind of, it's not, I don't wanna say, it's not historic, it's
No.
certainly older,
Yeah.
City of Salem logo, essentially, it's, anyway.
It just is something of interest to us that we felt like we could kind of bring back to the building and sort of recognize that historic nature of it. If you go to the next slide. And then lastly, the council chambers, which is probably the biggest amount of work, and really what we're doing here is separating the councilors with a dais from the sort of general seating area, and then providing a proper podium and a lowered section where you get a good view across the way, as well as not allowing anyone to sort of be behind the councilors. That was a major concern, so keeping them feeling a little bit less vulnerable when the staff is right behind them, or not staff, the general public is sitting right behind them while they're speaking. So now they can be addressing one another face to face, and hopefully that'll serve as a better way of running those meetings. And then maintaining the historic ceiling design that is currently there with the really kind of articulated wood. All of the existing kind of windows in there, and the columns would be primarily remaining. And the wood paneling that's there we keep as well. So the where the art is in there, I know that you all will have input on what goes back in there. We didn't take a shot at any of that, but obviously we'll have you be glad to work with you on how that goes. And then I think that was, and then that sort of leads us sort of to the point of this meeting is really we took a pass to introduce you to or provide you with a kind of idea about where potential art locations are, given what we know about the building, like what we've understood about how it's functioning, where public's gonna be, where staff's gonna be, like where locations that seem suitable for art, knowing that we're going to be, utilizing the percent for art. So I made a few plans with some imagery related to them, and I'll just go up through the floors, starting at level 1 up through level 3. These are not like, these are the only places. If you have other ideas, that's why we're here. This is definitely meant to be more of a conversation than me telling you this is what we're doing. I wanted to give you the lay of the land, and I think once we go through this, we can just have a discussion and get your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And just to add to that, I think the goal out of this meeting would be, and we don't necessarily need an answer today, but certainly in the near future, would be to pare down, locations. So for the library, for example, when we did our RFQ for artists, we identified specific locations where we thought we could potentially seek for art. And then they proposed on those locations depending on their craft and their material. And so I think we would do something similar here, is really with the RFQ say, hey, we want art here, here, and here, and then let them propose on what they think would be best. It could be a combination, so at the library it was one piece, at the police station it was one piece. I think in this building we had multiple pieces, interior and exterior. So you could be thinking about it from that perspective too, that you don't have to buy a singular piece, it could be different pieces, multiple pieces, exterior, interior. And I'll just note too that right now we're tracking the percentage for this project is about 142,000. So a pretty significant number. Actually 142,500. And so I don't know if like all of that money has to be spent specifically on art at Civic, or if you guys have the ability to say we're gonna spend 80 at Civic and then reserve the other for maintenance or for other art pieces elsewhere in the city. So that's probably more you guys' wheelhouse to understand that.
Can we do that? Like, if you don't spend it on the art, it can go into our fund?
We would want to review, I think it's actually pretty detailed in our policies and guidelines, so we would.
I have a quick question before we get into the details.
Sure, yeah.
What is access to the building gonna be like? Because this building, obviously the artwork is concentrated there, exterior and then the public lobby space. And so a member of the public has to be escorted into a meeting room or a meeting like this one. What will it be like at the Civic Center?
Yeah, it's a great question. You want to answer that?
If you like, yeah.
So we are in general trying to kind of pare down the public access points overall. And just to note, like pretty much the entire, well, I shouldn't say that. Looking at the first floor, you want to maybe scroll to the left a little bit.
Yeah, can you oh yeah, that's good. Or zoom out maybe a little bit too.
So this is the first floor, and the primary public access points are gonna be the customer service center, which is that right wing. Just the tip of the right wing, and then to the left, the west wing, I'll call it. That northern part of the west wing is gonna be a courtroom / large meeting space. And where that star is, and the 2 orange bars is a kind of a public lobby before it goes into that open area. So that's gonna be a public space for people to access. Then we go to the second floor.
And people will still be coming up through the garage and
Yes.
across from underneath the council.
So the second floor has council chambers, which will be a public space. City manager's office is not necessarily a lot of public access, but certainly there can be people coming for meetings with the mayor or for the city manager. So there's the potential for a little more public interaction in that area. But otherwise, oh yeah, and courts is on the west, or the east wing of, that floor. And then that's pretty much it. And then going to the third floor, the only public space is the, permit application counter, which is on the third floor now. It'll be in the same spot it is today, but with a larger lobby. And so, yeah, we've identified potentially a couple locations there. So that's kind of the general, there's always gonna be similar to this space, right? There's, as people come to the city for meetings, they can be escorted through to a meeting room, so there's that, chance for interaction, but I think when Hacker looked at this, they were trying to focus more on those like public heavy locations.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that makes a lot of sense.
So this doesn't include like just wall space for meetings?
No,
Too, 'cause
not,
look like
not
there's
what's there
plenty
now.
there
Yeah,
too,
not what
and-
art you're planning to put back in yet, that's, I
Yeah.
think, a totally.
Yeah,
Valid
there was a lot of
conversation.
art. There was a lot of, I think, well, you probably have a better idea for what art was there, but there was SPAC art, there was non-SPAC art.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of Trotsky stuff.
Right, great mission, things,
Yeah,
gifts exchanged between
Yeah.
delegations.
Yeah, sister cities. and-
Right, that kind of stuff.
just my thoughts here, just kind of brainstorm. We did recently form a subcommittee to explore acquiring major works of art from prominent Salem artists. Some of whom were in discussion, made the works. But there seems to be a lot of excitement generated by that, and also I think we might also be comfortable, I'm just speaking here for myself, right, with where the art that's been moved out of the center is right now. So there means that there would be plenty of room for new art. Either, commissioned or, the artwork from these Salem artists. So, I hate it when asking artists to just donate major works of art. I mean, some of them are, getting older and they have a lot of work and they're like, yeah. But it'd be nice to be able to pay them for
Right.
their work too.
Sure.
So I'm wondering if that could be included in the percent for art is, once we decide what work we want to acquire by the Salem artists. As well, especially because there seems to be, wall space for it. Also, the question, the city chamber, the chambers is all paneled wood now. Can artwork be hung on that, those walls?
Behind well, there was before, and I think you could go where it was before, I
It
don't.
was paneled before.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so, because that's kind of envisioned, surrounded by Salem artists, work by Salem artists.
So the new ones in that space, I think we would want to avoid it, those are acoustical treated panels, so they would probably not be the best to have art in front, because it would probably diminish their acoustic properties. But the ones that were, I think the ones behind that where they are now make sense, but back there.
I think something we found with the Oregon State Capitol is that with increased teleconferencing and video coverage of meetings, a plainer background without artwork behind the members who are being filmed was a priority, like the art was removed from some of those hearing rooms.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think that when you have a major retrofit of a 50-year-old building that's on the National Register, that our goal should be some significant works of art. I am less in favor of adding to the city's portable works collection, which is what we've got a ton of in the library. The library just offloaded a great deal of that art because it couldn't be accommodated in that. The city has limited money for just capacity for public art management, staff, systems, maintenance. So I'm very much interested in seeing opportunities for larger works of art in truly public settings. Because I think if you look at the third floor plan, it's an open office cubicle situation, which is now the norm, i.e. no walls. Yeah. So.
We were told that nothing could be hung from the atrium windows. Is that the case? Like we couldn't have any kind of a sculpture?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Did you look into hanging like a large mobile type piece in the atrium space, or proposing that? In the main space.
It's not, we actually did propose, one of these ideas was actually hanging from under the council chambers, but I suppose maybe that's my lack of vision is to like think about that as like the main place to do art, underneath the main atrium in the overall large space there. So, for.
I know,
We'd have to have it very well considered from the structural standpoint, and there's a lot, like,
Sure.
will be.
Yeah.
Not that they, I think, I'm sure anything's possible, especially if it's not like a monster of a piece of metal, but it may end up with lots of cables and kind of supports to keep it from falling, but that would be part of the design process, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you guys have done a great job. I really like where this is heading. I think something like that could be interesting. I understand the concerns with, you're just seismically retrofitting it and then adding something that could potentially, fall on people. But with all that light that you're bringing into that space, it could be a really cool.
I know something just occurred to me while you were talking. One of the things that we've been asked to consider, very commonly is the amount of birds and spiders that end up in the seal right up there. And if you've been in there recently, if you look up to the lights that are just there now, they're literally like a dense cobweb of spider webs that you can't even see the lights through. It's like looks like a person gets like a baby would get stuck there.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So like that kind of, and maybe that's something that occurred to us while we were putting it together, but that's the first like facilities consideration I would think is like it would probably get fully covered in birds and spiders pretty quickly after 1 year.
yeah, I think that's a really good point. Whatever we recommend or want to move forward with, and it's kind of on the same topic as the Earth Globe coming up later in the agenda, but we want to make sure whatever we install is like easily maintained. Doesn't require a lot of maintenance. So there's, the facility's gonna do that, is it back, or is it professional art cleaner? That's just added more costs. So we consider.
What do you envision this enclosed open air space to be used for moving forward?
Just this whole interior space?
Yeah.
So this will just be the same as it is, really, it's people walking through, it's gonna be circulation and, around the perimeter, it's not gonna be enclosed by anything.
Yeah,
It's still exterior space.
Open air.
Just covered,
There
it
has
won't leak anymore.
there's not, it won't be, yeah. I think, there's not really any programming per se, but the history of the design of the building was to, you had your Peace Plaza to the south, which was an open air plaza area where people could meet and have functions. And then because of the wetter climate, you could shift that venue into this atrium space and have the same sort of kind of connection. And one of the planters, you used to have planting in it, now it's been replaced with pavers. And there have been like over the years, that's I've been here, like, a small band or, volunteer day recognition where they kind of have a little tea party inside that space. So I could see that kind of thing continuing. But there's not really like as necessary for.
Yeah, so on the image on the left, we're not representing kind of the plants or some of the material that's in there now is meant to represent the skylight, so apologies for that. But we're not taking out the plants, I guess I should say.
Okay, yeah. The acoustics in there are actually surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what group played for what occasion, but the sound was actually good.
I think the Civic Center day that they had some.
Oh, yeah,
it's
they
the
celebrated
50th anniversary.
Be nice if that space was used for.
So, would you guys be okay if we kind of walk through, or Daniel walks through kind of his ideas, and again, like we said, these are just ideas, if there's other things that you guys can think about
So because it's hard to, I'll just do this really quickly, because it's not a lot of information, it's just all over the place. Primarily, like, circles are intended to be sculpture ideas, and then lines are basically wall ideas. So, on the first floor, we're looking at, and these images represent sort of, I know it's hard to see it in plan, so we put some photos of those locations to kind of, and I put a little yellow squiggle to represent maybe this is a sculpture, so you can kind of see it in context. So, the first one we'll talk about just in the atrium. I think there's opportunities in these sort of planters already that are green for, you know, one or more sculptures in the atrium space as part of like the main public gathering area. The other one would be like to the point of like a large piece that would be centering in the atrium, a full wall piece that's on this back side here that could, you know, maybe it spans across, maybe it's like a mesh that you can see through, or something that you could hang, or it's a 3D sort of like what Amanda Wojcik did, that's kind of going around and contrasts against all of that really rectilinear form in there. There's some wall space on the back side here. This is a pretty blank canvas, I would say, and it's visible from your main entry, you know, coming in from the parking lot. You'd see it pretty prominently on the other side of the elevators. This wall here could be a host to any number of types of either murals or, you know, 3D wall art. And then there's some spaces there's lobby spaces that I think would be, if it's a more like smaller scale pieces that are acquired, you could either do, you know, full murals or small pieces in the lobby to this space here. And then this is the CSC this is the window now, but since we're putting in a shear wall here, this would be another place that could go, you could put in a piece of art that would be in a pretty prominent public place. Moving outside to kind of these photos here, there's a pretty nice garden in this area outside the CSD, and this is a very prominent space, as you noted, kind of when you come, this is sort of the primary entry for most people to the Civic Center. So it would be kind of in a gardened area, maybe you do a sculpture there. And then we talked about sort of hanging something from under the council chambers, which would be accessible from the bridges if they needed to clean it. So that was kind of, I think, where we were differentiating that, why that was like an idea versus the hanging from the atrium. That's level one. So in level two, sort of, if we start at this council chambers, that's a good place to start. Is I think there's obviously we talked about the walls on the perimeter, where they have art now. Maybe that wants to be a site specific piece. Something that our team was really interested in. And our interiors team really was trying to present as a viable idea is potentially using, you know, finding a fabric or drapery artist to do new drapes in the council chambers that would really like custom, very interesting, like tying into the history or some kind of particular, if you have any artists that are doing that type of work that you're interested in, it's like a specifically to the main use and function of the entire, you know, how the city runs, and it would also be a functional piece of art. I think there's some concerns about maintenance, whether that's gonna, like, we want to maintain some money to keep it up to date, because I know facilities worries about maintaining artwork and they kept saying over and over, we tried to put drapes in this thing all over the place, and they were like, no, get them out of there. So
They like the shades.
yeah, they don't want like the nice like flowy drapes. So that's originally what was in this space. They used to have big like velvety drapes around all of the windows. It was like a really kind of textural, soft feeling.
Were they patterned?
No, they weren't.
It's just a solid.
I think it was just a solid like orange or something. Yeah.
Of course they did.
Yeah. And so, and then if we slide down a little bit here, there's this stair piece here that's kind of idiosyncratic for how the building operates, but I think it's, you know, it could be seen, I could see it as a place where you could maybe take that whole thing and paint it with some sort of mural, make it stand out a little bit. And then along the front here, I have like maybe two sculpture spots. I know there's one piece here that got just removed the other day. It was there until a few days ago, I think. That's existing, that's a really kind of abstract piece. But maybe there's also space on the other side, either side of that, that faces the Peace Plaza. And then there's similar kind of wall space here on the outside of the bathrooms. I didn't have a photograph of that, or I didn't include a photograph of that, but there's just big blank walls there. And then CMO office, maybe there's a painting on the wall, and then up to the 3rd floor, we just have our new, if you go up one more to the next slide, please.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go, sorry, yeah, down, up in stories, down in pages. And then on the 3rd floor, this is, you can zoom in here, you can kind of get a sense, this is what the new permit application center is going to feel like. There's some wall space on the far side and the near side that would serve sort of like the build like here, where you have, maybe you could do the whole thing out of wallpaper, you can have a couple pieces adjacent to one another. But that's gonna be another place where there's gonna be a lot of public in and out through the day. And so that's that was our ideas. I think that was kind of just there's obviously no limit to what you can do with art, and so we wanted to just put that out for you to consider, and maybe there's a preference for just one major piece, or maybe there's a preference for a couple of pieces, and we're happy to work with you all however you need to support that.
There's also
providing imagery.
the North Plaza. I don't think we've identified.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah, I think there'd be opportunity, do we go up the slide?
A picture.
Okay, yeah, so the whole North Plaza has I think they have their butterfly gardens, some kind of pollinator gardens. And there used to be an art piece there that was decommissioned or in storage, not sure which, there was a fountain there at one point.
The piece was the drummer.
The drummer, okay, yeah.
So it was actually installed above kind of a reflecting bed, pool.
I've seen a
And
picture
so
of it, yeah.
it didn't really work structurally.
Yeah.
I wish, I get the need for a pollinator garden. I just wish that there are plants that are a bit more attractive than some of the milkweed. It would just look a lot better.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, and
I was
actually,
just there, actually, and I was looking at it.
yeah, I mean, I get it, but it just,
Yeah, so there's opportunity for art there as well that we didn't identify. A lot of open space is out in the open. Unfortunately, this project is not doing any concrete repairs on that whole entire plaza. It's in pretty bad shape, similar to the Peace Plaza,
it is in really bad shape.
really bad shape.
Okay.
But it's outside of what we can afford with the project, so it's a future.
They're gonna be upgrading the size of the so it doesn't fall down, but
Right, so we are doing this improvement, but nothing on the top where it
Yeah.
is more aesthetic.
It doesn't seem too early to start on this.
No,
Not at all.
it's not,
So, maybe should we form a subcommittee to start into this, maybe? Is it 3 members of the commission to kind of get together and research and decide how to move
Yes.
forward and go and take a look at this site
And I would hope that any subcommittee would be discussing hand in glove with the city and with Packer and CB2 about priorities. I love the fact that you've got all these yellow squiggles.
Yeah.
And that would be amazing. This budget wouldn't really allow for that.
No.
But I think that there's kind of a lot to chew on. I hadn't thought about the drapery idea. I mean, are you familiar with the Hall Center in Eugene?
yes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of incorporated art that's functional. The stage curtains, porcelain enamel on the restroom stall doors, I mean, the carpeting, I mean, throughout the building. Yeah, it's very cool. And the Oregon State Capitol, the House and Senate chambers have carpeting that matches a couple kinds of trees. I can never get it right. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, lots of carpeting, mostly carpeting. Yeah, the only space that will be carpeted is the existing, well, that and the customer likes, for as far as art, public space would be the customer service center, which is currently concrete. All the other areas are identified as public.
Like the airport. Salem.
Oh, there you go.
Marketing design.
Take your picture of your feet when you go to Chambers.
So just so you guys know that we do have, it is a lengthy process, Chris is very familiar with it, because she's been a part of it in previous projects, but. We draft the RFQ, we have boilerplate information, so we can put that together fairly quickly, I think. But then as, again, like I said, as part of that process, we would include or identify, and hacker could potentially put some renderings together for where we think art can go. We advertise it for 4 weeks, we get responses. We then evaluate all those responses, we score, we have a team of people that would score and make a selection, either one artist or multiple, depending on what we do. And then in case of the library project, and I think probably this project too, we gave them the top artists that we wanted to get more information from, we gave them a stipend to put together a piece to show us kind of their vision and how they would implement it. And then we've narrowed it down from there. And so all that obviously takes time. We want to give them artists plenty of time to actually work on their project so that when we're ready to be done with the project, they can come right at the heels of that or right before we're done and then install the pieces. So not too soon.
I know in the library, there was also like just factoring in lighting for some of the sculpture at the library. You know, it's sometimes the artist doesn't account for that and the city will sometimes take that into consideration and provide lighting. Like in the library, we did it.
So what's the ambient lighting gonna be like in that big interior, open air,
Yeah.
unheated, the atrium?
It'll be much brighter than it is now. It'll be very diffuse. And what we tried to do is, so you'll notice that there's these sort of angular pieces at the top on the floor. So with the skylights, they sit on these like angled ledges, and those should help diffuse some of the light and reduce the amount of glare by kind of giving it a reflective surface to bounce off of. But it's going to be a slightly smaller skylight than they have now, but the glass is going to be much clearer. So it'll these angle towards the south, so you'll get direct light into the atrium. And then, but there will also be, you know, it's just gonna be much brighter than it is now. We're not shading it at all, but the glass has some unique properties that should fill us.
Anthony, what is our next step for?
Yeah, I think it would be great to form a subcommittee. If there's people interested in joining today, we can get going now.
I'm interested.
Perfect.
I'm
We got
interested.
2? Okay, that's our max. There is 3.
Is
So
there a maximum?
yes, we can't have a quorum.
Okay.
And what's the timeline for completion?
February 2027 is
Okay,
the current completion date.
And for the subcommittee, there's lots of research that can be done that doesn't need to be included in a public meeting. If you guys want to start creating suggestions to bring back to the group, so there's going to be a decision-making quality to your subcommittee, then we would want to make that a public meeting as well, which would just require an agenda and to be posted ahead of time. Minutes would want to come after. But it's definitely doable. We would just want to plan ahead and put together an agenda and get it posted. And then, of course, it would be a public meeting, so we would want that. It could be a Teams meeting, it could be YouTube. So it's something that other people can join in as well.
So do we have a motion to make the subcommittee? Other than me, want to make a motion?
I move that SPAC create a subcommittee for planning for the public art at the Civic Center.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we have a subcommittee, and could we get some kind of a tour maybe of actual physical space?
Absolutely,
Point
yeah.
that out to us, or that might be a good place to start.
Sooner the better, I'd say.
Instead of
Um,
James.
Do you wanna work on that?
Great.
Since you have their contacts, if you can provide Kathleen with some dates that work for you guys, and she can look at my calendar.
Great.
If you're around, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
let me know.
So it is a active construction site, so
We get to where?
yes, Hardest Right has.
And vests and boots.
Yes.
Okay.
So
No shorts.
they won't provide the boots, so hopefully you have a hiking boot or something that you can wear, no
Okay.
sandals, open-toed shoes.
Okay.
If it's a leather shoe, I'm sure that's fine too, it's not like, depending on when we go, it's not super under construction right now, it's mostly internal though. But yeah, they'll provide all the PPE other than the shoes, so, we can put that on the calendar, we can coordinate where we meet and get you guys soon up.
We currently have an RFQ that's on hold that we've been doing for the urban development sculptures for downtown, so we sort of have a template that's in the works, and to the point that we probably can.
Can I get a copy of that?
This is it.
Yes.
Sweet, you could definitely get a copy.
Did you happen to use it or?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
it's-
used your guys' as a format. I did a couple things that hopefully should help in the future, so,
Okay.
yeah, I'll definitely share that with you.
This is
I think
really.
the library would be a good model.
Is that not the same?
They're all very similar templates. There's just like a few very like logistical things of. We don't necessarily need to get into the weeds, but how it is accepted into the public art collection needs to be part of the RF process. And so like, it's little things like that.
And I think, what I would wanna review with this group is like how we're scoring the artists, like what criteria are we prioritizing, and so that when we have to be very clear of this, how we're gonna evaluate their qualification proposals, so.
And that's another kind of revamp I did to the template you guys used is that we have in our guidelines and policies, we have basic criteria that needs to be met for it to be part of the public collection. So I just turned that into the criteria on the RFP.
Great.
That is.
Very exciting.
That's the fun part of it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for actually having some ideas and putting them out there, and we're excited to work with you. Great.
All right, on to the next, so we don't wanna lose too much time, we
Yeah.
wanna stay focused, so on to
Yes.
the Earth Globe
Okay.
renovation, very much a project in the works. There's lots to be learned and hopefully the decisions and hopefully we can find some solutions. Cause it's a big one and I think I've been sharing with the commission emails that have been coming in. A lot of it has been coming from our friends at the Salem Park Foundation. And it's all great questions. All the questions that you guys have are the same questions that we have of how can we make this happen? It seems to be a very expensive project. And it's also something important. It's something we want to see get done well. So right now it's in the research phase. Today we'll talk about a couple things. I'll give everybody an update on the information that's came from landmarks, as well as we'll want to hear the commission's feedback on what we hope the goals of the public kind of open house meeting would be. So let's start with the landmarks feedback. Overall, the staff from Historic Landmarks, they're just informed and ready to support. Depending on the different direction that goes, it will need different processes for the historics staff. but they're informed, they're ready to support. And the other piece of insight that they provided is that the art or the renovation, it's more important that it's done in the spirit of rather than an exact replication. So if it's done in the spirit of, it would still check that mark for being a historic landmark and designation. So it doesn't have to be an exact replication. But whatever we come to, whatever direction we would go in, we can come back to historic landmarks and they would guide us through what the next steps needed to be.
So do you need their approval?
We wouldn't, it doesn't sound like we need their approval, and it's also, it seems to me, and you guys can correct me, well, if it can't be, it's not that historic landmarks, they don't have $1.5 million to make it reappear. So there's gotta be processes and ways that if it can't be maintained for whatever reason, we could go through the processes and steps to do whatever we needed to do to execute the vision that we decide needs to happen.
Project in my neighborhood that is now calling for public comment because the property is on the National Register. It's probably also a Salem landmark. So I, of course, because I run a public Instagram feed, looked up the code. And it is my understanding that any change to a historic resource within the city would come before either a staff review or a landmark commission review. So I just think we should plan on dealing with them. I see them as potential advocates, not an enemy. But sorry to interrupt.
No, that's great.
And I have a couple of questions before we get here from the staff. So how much will the public open house cost? And where will that money come from?
Yeah, it's a great question. Of course, we can't know how much a public house is going to, an open house is going to cost until we know what we're going to do there. So until we have an outline of the expectation.
Where will it come from? But no matter where will it come from? And the reason I'm asking this is because so far, the new estimate was paid for out of this money that was, according to this letter, it was for engineering and project management services. Yet somehow it ended up paying for this new estimate. And now I don't want it to start paying for this public outreach.
And I understand that. And so the project management includes things like estimates and public outreach. That is what the project management of something like this does. It pays for the staff time. Now, an open house, depending on what we need, like if you really needed a bunch of materials, then you're going to start getting into costs, but otherwise, we're not going to have a lot of costs for an open house.
Not a catered dinner?
Well, it depends, but.
And again, I'm not even sure why this is necessary. We have over 400 donors that have donated $150,000. And it seems to me like that's a pretty good statement that the public supports this. And the Eco-Earth always has been worth $1 million. And I bet you, if you ask the person on the street about any one of the artworks in the public collection, you would get a blank look. In fact, I had no idea that mural that we just all heard about the de-accession, I had no idea it existed. But I bet you, if you ask the public about the Eco-Earth, they would know exactly what you were talking about. And so I don't think we should blink when we hear, $1 million point whatever. I don't. And I'm a little shocked, frankly, that there's even blinking going on. And also, again, in this letter, this project will restore the Eco-Earth globe to its original beauty, in tribute to the community artists and volunteers who brought it to fruition 20 years ago. I mean, before you even start talking about changing this, or reducing it back to a black industrial globe so we could talk about the history of the paper mill. You know, I think you need to take into consideration everything that went into it. And everything that would happen, you know, if all of a sudden it wasn't.
Yeah, and that's definitely part of this conversation and I don't think any of us want anything to happen, but it to be instantly restored. The problem
It won't
is,
be instantly restored, but I think to talk about not restoring it to the original mosaic, I think it does a great disservice to the process and the people.
the problem is the lack of funding.
Well, we don't know that. That's an assumption that you are making. We don't know that.
With more fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can I? just say something? Just to respond to a few of your points. I don't think this public meeting should cost anything. The city has space, the city has staff. Obviously, we can, people can get there. It does not need to be hosted. You know, maybe you can bring your own water. I see this as as an invitation for the public to come together, hear about where things have gone with the Echo Earth Globe. So and for me, taking it back to a black round thing, that's not an option for me. And I see the ultimate goal of any kind of public conversation as for building support so that more people understand about why this thing that we love is having these problems and why we need to get to X dollars. And I'm hoping that a more elevated conversation with more people involved. I mean, you've got a mighty cohort of donors who are extremely loyal, and some of them have the ability to give at a high level, and you have brought that to this conversation. It's worth quite a bit. I hate to say it, but you know, I work in the arts all the time. Some people that I have talked to, just they don't care about the Echo Earth Globe. Okay, we need to find the people who do, bring them into the fold, and then I think we as people who live in Salem can encourage the city to more properly care for this gigantic work of art in one of our most used parks.
Well, what I don't understand is, this is your reason for existing, right? Is to care of public art? And I keep asking, why did you let this happen? What the heck?
I hear you. I mean, it made me crazy to know that every piece that fell off that globe is off in the community, uninventoried, whatever.
That's not true. It is collected, it is inventory, it's labeled on the back of it.
I'm glad to know that. Some of it. I'm glad to know that, because I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I'm sorry that that's the case, because when I came on to the commission and there was talk about the Eco Earth Globe, I had to ask, is it part of the collection? I didn't even know. Yeah.
Right.
So raising awareness to the community through open house, maybe we do a survey also. Just the more awareness, I announced it to my neighborhood association. I do a regular report for Salem Art Commission to my neighborhood association. I told them, you know, what was going on with the Eco Earth Globe and how much, and they were like, wow, they didn't even know. So I think, and they were concerned. So the more awareness that we can raise is gonna help with the fundraising.
Right.
And, you know, just helping it along. The concern though is that it's deteriorating more and more and more as we have to move
Because
forward.
there's no maintenance.
But at this point, I guess there's no, I don't know what can be done to maintain.
Spread the loss out.
No. I don't know if that
Why not?
can be done, if that will, I mean, from what the report said, that would do more damage to it. But we could see if there's anything to do in the meantime, but I think starting on a major fundraising campaign, and
Would be a
raising
good idea.
awareness. I have
Yes.
a question, when you did the the Peace Plaza open house. Was that beneficial to have people come? I mean, I went, I wasn't exactly sure what I was supposed to do. I left a couple sticky notes and
Yeah.
I didn't.
It certainly helps. We always like to see more interaction and more, there was 15 to 18 people. And so the more people that show up, the better, certainly. So I think if we do a public outreach, meeting, we wanna really try as hard as we can to get the word out. And maybe I was telling Kathleen, somehow maybe we can get like say a reporter or statesman to get wind of it, to like say, hey, they could write a nice article about the condition and how it came to be and why we're even meeting in the first place to just get the word out. But I do know that public just interaction and comments on Facebook, like there's gonna be a population of people that are gonna be like really upset. That's gonna cost more than $5 million when we have all these other issues in town.
But I agree that having some kind of a public discussion is going to help it more than anything. And the state reporter did do an early article, and once they did that, we got a lot of donations, and they would be right on this.
Yes, I think what I wanted to get from you guys is, what's the goal from the open house? Is it really informational? Just to let people know, hey, here's where we are, here's the status. Or is it about getting suggestions that could be, harebrained or really good, depending on the whole range of ideas? And so, like for the Peace Plaza, we asked for input. The architect consultant had sticky notes and said, well, what do you want to see? What's some of your visions? And they were able to take those and bring them into their design. And so I don't know if we can do that with this project because we don't know exactly.
So this is just a suggestion, but some of the original people are still, very much concerned and active in the eco-earth. The artistic director, Mary Heinzman, still works with students that are working on new icons. It would be great to have her.
Refurbishing, the icons,
So, I'm sure she would come and be prepared to speak with people that would have questions for her. I'm sure she could bring the icons and some of the artists. Just to kind of bring it to life a little bit.
Do you want to speak to what Ms. Linton said about the tiles in the metal wall?
Yeah, well,
Just one opinion.
just a little bit, and I think this is something for one piece of what I was hoping to ask the commission for today too, is more resources. We have this one estimate from this one group. It seems from feedback of the commission, their ARG is a great group, you respect their opinions. But a lot of the feedback that we've been getting is there a cheaper option? Is there another way to go? Is there anything else? And to do that, we need more experts. So I was hoping that, and it can be on a range of maybe even someone as simple as a local ceramic or tile, someone who works with mosaic, up to someone who would do this on a professional level and might be considered to take the project on and could give an additional estimate. So
just one, on the earlier estimate, the 2021, they proposed exactly that. They said, you could have a conservator type approach, which was the $400,000. And they recommended against taking all the tiles off. They said, if you do that, you're in for a reconstruction, and that's gonna cost $1 million. So the $1 million figure is not new. They said that in the older estimate. And so, even they had two approaches within the same.
Yeah,
And so I do think it's a good point.
it's a good point.
I wonder what changed. They said in that other one, we didn't have to do the asbestos abatement, which was gonna be a big part of that $1 million thing. And now they say it has to be done. And so I don't know, I wish we could ask them what changed.
Well, I think nothing changed. I think their point was if you take all the tiles off, then is when you run the risk of puncturing the membranes And then you have to get into the asbestos. And that's why they recommended against that. So,
I mean, there's a lot of detail to everything, and we've had a lot of information come in from a lot of different people, and there's a lot of different ways you could look at it with any project, right? So again, I'm not a mosaic expert. All I can do is relay some of the information I've received.
but did they not tell you that maybe they wouldn't have to remove the asbestos?
It's a maybe thing, and it's also like, it's a professional opinion thing of whether ultimately the person who's willing to take on the project is willing to take the risk.
Yeah.
And so some anecdotal information is there's going to be some artists, some project managers who aren't even willing to take the risk of putting a mosaic on top of steel at all. That to begin with is not a great foundation. Okay, so we're starting from a place that we don't have a great foundation. Now we have layers of other foundation on top of that. Different artists are going to be more comfortable with working with whatever those layers are. You can call it a substrate of like, how comfortable are they working with a potentially damaged substrate or a substrate that doesn't expand and contract the way that they would want it to do. Different artists are going to be more comfortable with that, and different artists will say, well, if we do it this way, the longevity of the art is going to be this. So there's risk and benefit to all of it. ARG, what we're hearing back is that they're not comfortable with using the substrate that's there. They would want to take that off. That means the asbestos would need to come off as well.
But before it was still ARG and they were comfortable.
And
what has changed?
Well, some of the tiles were still there, it would be more difficult, right? So they're just patching. Now it's to take it all off, and then they're working from a firm foundation. And so that would be, again, getting potential other resources, other artists to come in and take a look to see if somebody's willing to do a repair rather than a restoration, or give us other options for restoration of what that would look like. Would be helpful to hear other feedback. There is a local artist, Lynn Takata, who works with mosaics that I just had a quick conversation with about mosaics in general. And she was just saying, it is a very tricky situation. You have tricky materials involved. And so you would want somebody to really look at it from a distance to look at the project as a whole, and that it would be a very large project to take on. So we just had some basic feedback from a local artist, and I would hope the commission could.
Have you talked to Mary Heinzman?
She's also a mosaic person, but that piece mosaic that in Takata did was a flat surface and down low, it's not this huge thing exposed to the weather. Yeah, it's not even.
Exactly, and so she said it was very tricky situation that we're working with out there. And so it's going to be a very big project, no matter who or how it's approached, and there's going to be risks and benefits to all of it.
I think longevity though is something that really needs to be considered. So you could get someone to patch it up and it'll look, much, much better. And then in 5 years,
Along with a
the
maintenance
same
plan.
thing.
That to me is the big gaping hole right here. Nobody took care of it. And if there's no plan to take care of it going forward, there's no point in doing it.
And in the first report, they even gave for maintenance. It's in there as to what should be done.
There's certain things with
But if
environmental
you're
things
constantly-
that,
Yes, and
that might not, be able to, even yearly maintenance or something to keep.
oh
the
yeah,
tiles from
when we first brought this up to Peter Fernandez, we talked about having a trust fund that was for maintenance and it could be established and added to. Certainly.
Yeah, I was reading through the code, this allows the public art fund allows 10% of the funding to go towards maintenance, 70 for procurement, 20 to manage, 10 to maintain, so
I think some of those percentages may have been removed.
they're still in the code, as I looked yesterday.
Okay, then maybe there was maybe, I think at one point, and it could have started when the echo load condition situation rose up. But there might have been some interest in changing the percentage because so much work needed to be repaired.
Right. 10 wasn't enough.
Yeah, 10 was not
It's a
enough.
drop in the bucket.
Percentage of what?
Of the money that's would be generated by the 0.5% for art.
0.5% from that.
So when projects, when we have projects that donate, not donate, but provide the 0.5%, like for the library project, we're required.
So this project of renovation,
Yes.
There is money for maintenance. There's not enough money.
Yeah.
Conceptually set aside for maintenance to solve the problem of the echo. Right. That's the problem.
We're getting super tight on time, so I want to make sure that Aaron and Tony, you guys have information that you need to understand what the goal would be of an open house.
And that's why I had my hand up. I always think that it's good for the public to understand what's going on around them. We've got a big globe here. People know it's no secret that it needs help. So ideally, my desired result from a public conversation would be that more people would care, more people would know that it's gonna take $1.5 million to fix it. And more people, and that my elected officials would see that people in the community care about this. I know the city's got financial troubles, we've got people on the street, there's not enough money for anything. But we've got this big thing, and I think it's our responsibility as a public art commission to say, hello, people of Salem. What should we think we should do this.
yeah, there are these options, what do you think?
Right, and the option to me would not to be to offer them, make it into a black ball, take it down to the middle.
No, and on that note, I don't think we can actually, because that was one of the questions we asked, completely with the historic and the landmark. The designation was partly because of the historic nature of the ball, but also because of the mosaic that was on top. And so we would be in violation of that designation if we were to go back to the bare metal without doing something to put it back.
The landmark designation has more to do with the community effort of the art than it does the structure itself.
But you would also have to dispose of all that asbestos, and that's an incredibly expensive thing, remember, if you just brought it back to nothing. Yeah.
Oh, you'd still have that cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your fundraising efforts were through mailers and things. Did you ever do any events where?
Our newsletter, we didn't do any
Newsletter.
events, we our newsletter. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if an open house would
But I
be
think-
appropriate
I think-
fundraising.
Well, but
That's
I mean,
because the city
it would-
sponsors
it's
it.
not a fundraiser.
It wouldn't be a fundraiser.
Yeah.
This is a conversation about,
Informational.
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and
But I would think that there would be apparatus that we could, QR code kind of thing. So that
I don't know, that would be up to the city.
Can donate, I mean, through you guys.
Oh, well, that's.
I mean, I think that would be a
all the
missed,
city website. and
missed
that-
opportunity to also say, hey, if you really care, to really push that, because I see this as a real promotional event.
Yeah, but it
It's
doesn't have to-
informative, but also
Well,
it'd be a missed opportunity if you.
And Kathy Lynn from the Statesman Journal has written at least a couple of really nice pieces about the eco-burden. I would definitely recommend.
Thanks, Carl, thank you.
Yeah. All right, thanks, guys.
Contacting her,
Yeah.
as well as the Salem Reporter.
Right, and what other fundraising efforts
Well,
do you have in mind as far as you had
But
talked
I
about maybe
think-
approaching more people with larger?
Before we do any more fundraising, we need to know what's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
Yeah, we can't fundraise, we put a hold on our, can't
Okay.
write grants now or anything because we have no idea.
And honestly, the first thing grantors wanna know is, what are you gonna
Yeah,
do?
yes.
And we don't
And we
know.
don't,
Well, we have the plan from ARC.
but we don't.
And that's good for, how long did you say, 6 months? I mean, that was a lot
But
of the
you haven't
problem,
decided that's what you. So, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But before, when we were writing grants, all we had was the 2021 estimate from ERC. And that's an old estimate and it wasn't particularly detailed. So grantors want to know, they're pretty concerned about detail.
Well, how do we get more information and answers to the questions about alternatives? And also exactly what ARC would do with the asbestos or not with the asbestos?
Could we at least
Can we
get the
ask
answer
them to come and give
to
us?
their question? I mean, why they thought it would be okay not to do the asbestos removal before it needs to be done.
I'll just note that if we bring them here, that's gonna cost more money.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
And so we could probably get a lot of these questions answered with a quick email.
Yeah.
It would be, free or certainly inexpensively. I think what we heard though from them is because the globe has deteriorated so much more significantly over the last 4 or 5 years since the original report, they're no longer recommending just restoring it. I think that's the main thing. There's been so much more water intrusion, so much more biological growth that it's no longer really viable to.
So the conservator approach is off the table.
That's what they're recommending. I mean, if we found, like Kathleen was saying, if we found someone that said, yeah, I'll do it, I'll conserve it and I'll
But
put
they
it back.
did not.
I think that's what we're hearing from ARG is they're not recommending it, they wouldn't necessarily probably want to stand behind that word because they wouldn't know how long it will last.
So maybe if there's a public information, that might be a good point to tell people this is why all of a sudden the costs have tripled.
And do we have an estimate for doing what Kathleen originally described was to do some facsimile, to have a surface and then commission something that would be similar? Do we have an estimate on that?
No, I mean, we could break out
You have to take off the tiles.
from the existing report, we could break out, because their estimate includes putting it back as it is today. And so we could potentially pull out what that cost is, and so then we could say, yeah, it will cost X amount to get us back to the bare substrate. And then it would be just a matter of whatever a new artist or group would charge to.
And I think they gave us that number.
They did.
Yeah, it was like 4 something.
Yeah, I'd have to pull
I
it.
would have to pull up, but I think it was even shared at the last public.
Because it would
meeting.
include the asbestos removal and including cement, these things are in here.
But it would be 400,000 versus
Plus.
$1.5 million.
Yes.
So that's something the public
To get it to the
should
point,
know
to
about.
get it to the point where somebody could do something else, so
Right.
that doesn't cost.
Right, and then that would
Mhm.
but then it could be done in a way that would last for.
However, the spirit, back to the historic aspect of it and the public input and all the community effort that went into it was to a mosaic sculpture. And yes, maybe tricky, but still mosaics. And our local artists made the mosaics.
Yes,
I mean, I think it's hard to get past that.
Yeah,
That's kind of
Some of my neighbors made it.
yeah.
a great big part of it.
It just has to be done in a way that the mosaic will.
And
And a lot of
and-
artists, I
and-
mean, I personally have spoken with a ceramic artist who said it never should have been done.
But it sounds like
So
maintenance.
people,
It sounds like maintenance was the
well,
issue.
I guess there are.
It was part of the issue. Certainly didn't help. I saw some comments on their meetings.
Yeah, I think some of our commissioners have had to leave, so we no longer are at quorum, so no decisions can be made at this point. But Brian, yes. Just remember that it's too far gone to do a simple repair. Also remember, ask them to factor in expense for maintenance. Yep. It's really hard to factor in the expense from where I'm standing, from what I know. We can't factor in an expense for maintenance. We can't do that yet until we know. If we move forward, like I could, for instance, right, if I get ARG to say it's going to be a completely mosaic thing, here's what we need to do. All right, my next step would be to go to facilities and to parks and see if they could do it. We could do it in-house, and if so, what is the in-house cost of that? We could also go to other potential mosaic artists or somebody who works in ceramics who could do, I think it was every other year maintenance and get an estimated cost for that to try and understand.
Yeah.
But until we really know what this project looks like, and then if we get those estimates now and this project isn't completed for 5 years, just know that those estimates are going to be completely different. So we can try and get some of these things understood, but until we have a little more detail, we can't be exact, and I wouldn't want to make a plan based off of something that is, we're just kind of making a shot in the dark.
So when will you have said plan? I mean, I don't know.
And
Will that be
by
a year
said
from
plan,
now?
are you wanting to know, are we 100% committed to $1.5 million completed by ARG? Or are we just committing to the fact that we're going to restore an all ceramic mosaic?
I guess that would be up to you. It would be nice to know. And because frankly, we're getting precious little information, like
Yes.
zero.
Well, we're not anywhere close to making that decision. We need a lot more information.
Maybe just tell us what you're doing and when and how and why. That would be
Next
helpful.
up is going to be an open house, and then we can't say for sure that we're going to be committed to that project, and and the problem is, okay, let's say we as a commission support the idea of fully restoring this project at an estimated cost of 1.5, and we know as part of that understanding, it's going to be an all fundraiser effort. We don't know what the timeline looks like. So it could be a very long time to fundraise that, and by the time we get there,
Which is what happened this last time.
yes, variables are going
Exactly
to
what happened.
change.
Yeah.
So we can head in a direction, but until we have the money in place and the project is started, variables are going to constantly change. We're going to need to adapt to this scenario.
So the open house needs to convey that information.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And it needs to happen soon, I think. For one thing, the money from the state, the $150,000 has to be spent by June of
26.
27.
Oh, great, okay.
27.
Is it possible, it seems like Salem Parks Foundation has remaining questions for ARG. Am I correct in this? Because you still have questions that you would like to have answered by ARG.
Yeah.
They could be conveyed to them by email. You know, what you've mentioned, whether the asbestos has to be removed, you know.
I think you've got that answer.
Okay,
And
whatever
how much-
whatever the questions are that remain, could those go to ARG, get an answer back, figure out if you need more information or you'd like more information from them? And then, I mean, is it possible to
Should we send our
schedule?
questions to Aaron or to?
That's a specific, you
Yeah.
decide what
Yeah.
Kathy.
Kathy, Tony and myself.
Yeah, if you wanna gather those questions that we haven't quite yet answered yet. Cause I know there's been some questions that have been funneled and I've done my best to get that up to ARG, and there's more that come in. Whatever questions that I haven't answered yet, if you wanna just email me directly and then you can copy, copy Aaron and Kathleen. It's TOU@cityofsalem.net.
I have a meeting.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Erin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, yeah, I think maybe at our next meeting, or maybe between now and our next meeting, we should figure out who the players are for this open house and what they're gonna do.
Yeah, that would be good.
You know, if we're gonna read, if the Parks Foundation's gonna present, if we've got the city presenting and what that's gonna look like. I felt the meeting that was at for Peace Plaza was a little too loosey-goosey, like it didn't feel like it was really too much. I don't know, maybe in your mind it did, but I think if we have a program where we can actually present things to the public and.
And I
think
guess I
that's-
was a little confused. Is the Eco Earth, do you consider that to be an ongoing
And
project?
I did respond to your email this morning, and so the ongoing project list here, this is brand new for us, and that.
Thank you very much.
Items we're not covering in the meeting, so because we covered Eco Earth Globe in the meeting today, it's not on this list of projects we're not covering on our agenda.
However, Peace Plaza was covered today.
And
No, this was my request, Kathleen had put together agenda,
So
and I
this
was
is
like, well, what about this one, this one, this one, this one, are we just gonna not think about those? So she very graciously put together this appendix
And that's
of the things
great.
that are still on our radar.
But to
And
an
now-
outside person, it has the effect of saying, oh, they don't care about this.
Well, it was
It's
a
on the
major
agenda.
agenda item, and we've given, 15, 20 minutes, we've given half an hour to it, so it was a major thing on the agenda. This was for things that are not time on the agenda, but that we still wanna keep.
And I wanna assure you, it's very, very important, it is the top of our list of things that are important. And our eye is definitely on the globe.
Good, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because I believe it is the most valuable art object in the public art collection. But by an order of magnitude, I would guess.
The thing is,
Sure, you're right.
we're volunteers,
We are too.
Kathleen splits her time,
We are.
so there's just so much that we appreciate
We are a
your
little tiny
passion
organization.
and
We
your
have no
everything.
staff.
We appreciate your keeping it, and with all your valuable
Yeah.
questions, because that's your passion project and it's great. It's ours too, but
And we are.
we have a list of a lot of things, so we will do our best to keep that. as
We are
a-
here at your request. I will remind you.
Can I ask sorry, are we planning a public meeting in the next 30 days, next 45 days, just so I can mentally,
Yeah,
get my head around this?
I appreciate that.
30 or 45? In the next, within the next month?
You're looking at me. You guys are the planners, right?
What are you thinking, Kathleen?
I would be hard pressed to get it in the next 30 days. We can try. I would imagine we would want one more monthly meeting to go over details, but
October.
yeah, I think we can get it together. I will also ask back for any feedback, so any commissioners in the meantime can send me direct emails if they have any ideas of what specifically they would like to happen and what is important for them to get out of the open house. We heard information, sharing of information was the most important.
Sharing what the options are.
Yeah, I think getting the information out is really important, like even to the neighborhood associations, if but I know you've done that before, you've gone around to the public awareness is really key, especially if there's going to be a major fundraising campaign to raise this.
But the point of the house is to get information.
It's for the city, really,
yeah,
the
that's
city
right.
to say, we find this important enough.
But I mean,
we
the
wanna
open
open our
houses,
doors.
so that the public has information.
But again, you don't know how many people are gonna come, I mean, if we get the press to cover it. And it gets out there that there is this meeting, it's just things will, and on social media, I mean, the word needs to really get out.
I think it would also be really strategic to consider who needs to be in the room to hear the message. I think it's fine for people, there are a lot of people who are negative about anything that the city does.
Yes.
We don't need that. What we need are people who care about the community, who care about, keeping, not watching Salem lose ground. So we've got this resource, we want to make it better, not worse. And the people who are thoughtful and who might have the resources to help. Whether that's $25 or whether that's $25,000. And there are people in this town with money and there are funders who care about investing here. And so if there are 50 people who are the right people, that's a win for me.
Yeah.
And if there are 100 people who come,
To yell at us. Yeah.
well, I don't, you know, I can deal with that, but
Well, but I mean,
You-
that.
you
that
want
could
the
be what
rest-
we did, Yeah.
well, you're probably, if you put something in the newspaper,
Mhm.
you're gonna get that. I would prefer a more strategic approach.
We'll definitely
That's still
notify our
open.
donors. We'll definitely notify our donors.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and
Right,
I was saying we would.
And the
get
art
publicity-
people.
We
Yeah.
would get publicity about the open house after, I mean, about what went on at the open house. Because it didn't want it in the press.
I mean,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah.
I know Lynn had started the, Save the Peace Mosaic, she even got a website and, I mean, it might be worth to have a Save the Eco Earth.
It might,
Globe,
it might. That's a
really
really good
campaign,
point. Yeah,
a
we
whole
might do that.
campaign. To do that with links directly to donate.
Yeah.
There, and we appreciate that you as the Parks Foundation have taken this on.
We have
It is a city,
We have it
project.
on our website, that kind of thing that you're talking about, but we might want to do a solo website.
I think
For
it
the
might be a
import.
really good idea. Start a campaign.
okay, so the action is that this will come back to the September meetings back with the goal that there will be a public
And some dates and really
Yeah.
some
In
concrete,
October.
in
some
October.
concrete things that we can set a date for, in October.
In the meantime, people keep donating,
Good.
so, it's not like nothing's happening.
Okay, so that we can't apply for grants or.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, but, and grants are where the truly big money is, so.
Yes, great. Well, thank you, we really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, no, thank you for being a champion for this art
Yes.
piece.
Yes, and I think we probably should table the unicyclists to the
Yep.
next meeting, and this is not a problem. And the only thing I wanted to say, while Brian is here, Brian, do you, I had suggested to Kathleen, and she thought it might be a good idea for you to schedule a public meeting for your subcommittee on the mural subcommittee, so you can present the plan, which I guess is now you are able to do that.
And you can also do that at a meeting.
Couldn't you just do that at the
But it's
September
gonna be
meeting?
I think it's gonna be a long, I think it deserves meeting and so I don't know, I don't know, Brian, are you there? Oh, well, anyway, we can talk about that, okay, meeting adjourned.